Why was it never mentioned that putting a biological male in the same bedroom as women at risk, biological woman, that is, why does anyone think this is a good idea? Is it a matter of political correctness, wokeism?
They should make a shelter for people that are indifferent.
I don't agree with that at all. I think that there should be a certain place. I'm not prejudiced about what anybody wants to be.
No, I understand.
Whether he wants to be a he, a she, a cat.
David Menzies for Rebel News here in Windsor, Ontario. And folks, I'm outside the Windsor courthouse. For the past couple of days, I was covering the trial of Cody D'Entremont. Now, if that name rings a bell, this is a person we have covered in the past. You see, Mr. D'Entremont in March 2023 got into a shelter called the Welcome Center. Back then, he said he was identifying as a female and used the alias Desiree Anderson. Before I go on, check out his mugshot. Ask yourself, does that look like any woman you've ever encountered? And by the way, it gets worse. When Mr. D'Entremont took the stand, he is now sporting a goatee. In any event, who am I to judge? The problem is that on March 26, allegedly, Mr. D'Entremont sexually assaulted a biological female of the shelter, and the following month he was indeed charged with sexual assault. There were a couple of notable things about this trial. I should say right off the bat, there is a publication ban that prohibits us from naming the alleged victim. So we have to respect that, obviously. Secondly, it was interesting to find out that the nature of the sexual assault was indeed all-out rape, according to the complainant, involving penetration. The details were very graphic. I won't go into those details right now. The accused was named everything under the sun during the trial, and the judge never intervened. Sometimes it was Cody D'Entremont. Sometimes it was Desiree Anderson, or simply Des. Sometimes it was he, him, she, her, they, them. It was all over the map. So even though I think the Crown and his lawyer were trying to be extra sensitive in not misgendering this person, it was just impossible not to. I would argue because of the nature of the physical evidence in the prisoner's box, i.e. a biological man. The trial went into incredible minutia. Did the incident happen in room 101 or room 103? Did Mr. D'Entremont use his left hand or right hand when he was initially allegedly groping the victim? And on it went. But the most fascinating thing about this trial, folks, is that the elephant in the room was never addressed, not once, which is to say, why is a biological male in a shelter and sleeping with biological females? And these are women who are in various stages of distress. That's why they're at the shelter. This never came up once. But why? This is the problem, wouldn't you say, when you have a biological male sharing shelter space with biological females. Aren't you asking for trouble, in a sense? But again, not addressed. Another thing that was notable, virtually no other media here. CBC Windsor was here, and predictably, in their reports, the whole transgender, and for that matter, trans species part of the story was never addressed, because this is the other fascinating thing about this individual, Mr. D'Entremont. He went from Mr. D'Entremont to Miss Anderson to then identifying as a cat. I wish I were making that up, but I'm not. We reached out to someone who's, knows about this shelter and has friends here. And she told us, and I'm not making this up, I wish I were, that right now this Cody D'Entremont is identifying as a cat.
Yes, he is. Yes.
How does one identify as a cat? He dresses up as a cat?
Yeah, I believe he does. I've never seen him in dress up, but he does identify as a cat now.
This was never addressed. Why? And where I stand, folks, I don't think in terms of mental stability that Mr. D'Entremont helps his case by pretending to be a female. I don't think he helps his case by pretending to be a feline. And I don't think he helps his case, even though this was not addressed, and perhaps they're not allowed to address it. But back on January 28th of this year, Mr. D'Entremont was charged with assault causing bodily harm and assault choking. That's why he is behind bars. He obviously violated the terms and conditions of his bail. In any event, I think all of those factors speaks of a profound element of mental illness. But again, just like the transgenderism, the transspeciesism, this was never addressed during the trial. Why? Now, I'm not sure I agree with the verdict, but that's beside the point. I go back to my original point, folks, and that is, why was the transgenderism, why was the transspeciesism never addressed? This is, like I said before, the elephant in the room. Why was it never mentioned that putting a biological male in the same bedroom as woman at risk, biological woman, that is, why does anyone think this is a good idea? And given the history of Mr. D'Entremont, given these other criminal charges that go back to January of this year, I'm not sure I'm good with the idea of this man or this woman or this cat getting released to walk the streets of Windsor, Ontario anytime soon. For Rebel News, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Well, predictably, folks, there wasn't a lot of media here to cover the curious case of the trans woman, trans cat, Cody D'Entremont. In fact, only a CBC reporter was present, and you can't trust what the state broadcaster is going to report. What I'm asking is, can you help us out in telling the other side of the story? Unlike the mainstream media, we do not receive a single nickel from the Justin Trudeau Liberals, nor would we accept it if offered. Please go to rebelfieldreports.com. That's rebelfieldreports.com. And if you're able to, kindly make a donation.